you make this distinction throughout your book between the Jesus Christ and Jesus of Nazareth. In other words, the Jesus of faith and the Jesus of history. And sort of so much of what the work you're trying to do is to uncover that Jesus of history. And I'm curious about sort of what you see is at stake for us today. We're both either as scholars, as people who consider ourselves Christians, as people who just admire Jesus but may not be Christian. What is at stake for you if we sort of just accept the Jesus of faith that's so often presented to us and leave that Jesus of history that you try to get at in this book, if we leave that part of his life unattended and unexamined? What do you see?
That's a very good question. Well, I think that even at the heart of Orthodox Christianity, of course, is that Jesus was both fully God and fully man. I have to tell you that even when I was a Christian, I had an incredibly difficult time making sense of that mystery. And I get it that it's a mystery. I get it. It's not supposed to be easy to understand. I understand that. But let me tell you what I mean by this. It's because, well, first of all, to be honest, usually what the Jesus that you hear about is the God Jesus. You know, when you go to church, you hear about the God Jesus. When you think about Jesus, when you look at even the creedal formulas around Jesus, they are all about who he is, not what he did or said, what his teachings are about. And even when you try, as a Christian, to think about the man part of Jesus, if you will, when you try to think about him as struggling or suffering, as anxious or scared, when you try to think about the humanity of him, it's very difficult to do so because, he's also God. I often compare it to watching a tightrope walker with a net underneath him. You know?
It's just not that interesting.
It's not that interesting. You just think, well, so he falls. So what? I guess what I wanted to do is take away the net and to say to a believing audience that if you are serious about this belief that Jesus was also a man, then you need to suspend that belief for a moment to truly absorb the consequences of it, to recognize that he was a product of his world, that his teachings were addressed to specific social ills, that his actions were in confrontation to specific political and religious powers, and that the man that arises from that understanding may not look like the man you expect. For non-believers, what I really wanted to do was provide a window into why this man is still important. You know, why, I truly, truly believe, I'm no longer a Christian, but I truly think of myself as a follower of Jesus. I really believe that I have fashioned my life, the way that I confront powers, the way that I think about social justice, is deeply influenced by Jesus. And I wanted to make that argument to non-believers, to say that you can be a follower of this man without being a Christian. And I think that, why is that important? Because there is probably no more significant individual in the world, certainly in the Western world, than Jesus. And he is an infinitely malleable thing. He can mean anything to anyone, which is what theology is about. But the Jesus of history is frozen in place. And while there are, of course, enormous debates about who he was and what he meant, those debates are firmly stuck within a time and place. And so whether you are a believer or not, you must be familiar with that time and place if you want to know anything about Jesus.